Happy Monday, everyone. Jackie here from TBA Law, coming to you Monday mornings with a short snippet of legal information. So all these videos are saved onto the Facebook page, so you can go back and have a look at anything that might be of interest to you. I've done a whole lot of videos on making your wills and you getting your estate planning done, and also on managing deceased estates, so that's all in there, and that's my specialty. But TBA Law also does a whole lot of property work and small business work. So I've done a short series on buying and selling property, as well as leasing, and also living in the community with your neighbours. And now we're doing a short series on businesses. So pros and cons of various structures that you can do business in. Last week, I did a video on being a sole trader, and today I'm talking about doing business in a partnership. So again, just like with a sole trader, the pros and cons depend on your situation. So where you're up to in business, if you're fairly early on or if you're progressing and you're growing, how much your turnover is, whether you've got a lot of staff, and what your objectives are. So people's objectives are different. And quite often, if you're just going to an accountant, the objective is just managing tax. But there are other objectives. There are objectives around control, around succession, and around, I suppose, the ease of actually managing the structure. So from a partnership perspective, we'll go through the so we've got a comparison of business entities sheet, which you can download from our website, or we can provide this for you if you ask. And we always give this to people when they're going to buy a business, because what entity they're buying it in is important. Some people might jump straight to creating a company and building a business in a company. But as I said last week, the sole trader entity is about the simplest entity you can have. And side by side with being a sole trader, a partnership is one of the simplest entities as well. So you'd be a partnership if it was two individuals or two or more individuals growing into a business together. So a lot of farmers are still trading as partnerships, and you know there are a lot of small businesses trading as partnerships, particularly mums and dad or family businesses. So from an income tax perspective, just like with a sole trader, the income tax, if it's your objective to pay as little as tax as possible, then being a sole trader or a partnership is not going to be really ideal. But if the income of the business is not huge at the moment, then keeping your structure simple could be the way to go. So thinking of income tax, just like a sole trader, the partners in the partnership pay the income in their own tax returns. So you do a partnership tax return, which costs extra money, and then the partnership, the business itself, doesn't pay the tax. The income is then split equally between the partners, and they do individual tax returns and pay income on that. So obviously, if the business income is starting to get up there, you can end up paying, upwards of 40% tax, which is not ideal. Whereas if you moved your business, once it starts earning a lot of money, into a company, you've then got a set rate at 30% tax, and small business tax rates are starting to decrease as well in a company structure. But again, small business, if you're earning less than $150,000 and you're sort of splitting that between two people, why wouldn't you stay a partnership? So the pros and cons depend on what stage you're at in business and what you actually want your business to do. If your business is buying assets, capital gains tax, you actually have some pros there in a partnership, because you get the discounts that an individual would get on a capital gain, whereas other entities don't necessarily get the same discounts. However, again, a smaller business might not be buying much assets. But then if you think about a farm, perhaps the husband and wife as a partners are buying land, which is a lot of assets, but then they run the actual operations of the business in a company. So that could be the way it goes, and then the company rents the land off the mum and dad. From an asset protection point of view, again, just like a sole trader, a partnership offers very little asset protection whatsoever, because similar to a sole trader, you're actually running business in your own name. So you and your partner are out there doing business in your own names rather than in another entity. So whatever you do in your own name, you're liable for. So if you end up owing money in the business and people are chasing you for money because the business is not going well, then your personal assets are at risk. All right, so there is very little asset protection in either a sole trader or a partnership situation. So again, once business gets bigger, it's usually the point where people move out of a partnership structure because it's too risky to continue in a partnership, and they move into a company or a trust structure. But while a business is small, it probably doesn't justify the costs of setting up a company or a trust. So pros and cons depending on the situation. Control and succession. So one of the main downfalls with partnerships are that the partners don't consider control and succession. So when they're all gung-ho and they're so happy about going into business together and they're really excited, they don't, or quite often, consider legal risks to themselves. So I suppose this is the biggest warning. If you're in a partnership and you're not thinking about changing that structure and you want to continue in a partnership, you need to have a partnership agreement in place. So the partnership agreement will be the document that works out the control and succession. Because essentially, if partners are in business and they don't have a partnership together and one of those partners die, the other partner continues on as a sole trader. The partner who's died gets nothing from the business. There is nothing to recover, like the value of a share in the business, because it was the two individuals trading together. So a partnership agreement would determine who ends up in control and management of the business if there's an issue between the partners. It works out how to resolve disputes, but most importantly, if one partner leaves, either voluntarily or involuntarily, because they've been diagnosed with a terminal illness or they've had an accident or they die suddenly, there's then triggers in the partnership agreement which actually say how much the family of that partner gets paid. All right. If you don't have a partnership agreement, you've got no protection whatsoever in terms of control and succession. So pros and cons around control and succession. It can be quite easy if there's a partnership agreement in place. It can be a disaster if there's not. Set up and running costs. This is another objective. So it's really quick and easy to set up a partnership. And that is, I suppose, why people, if they want to go into business, start as a partnership and then progress into another structure, because the partnership is quick and easy. Off you go, get an ABN in your joint names, get a business name if you wanted to, and off you go, you're in business. If you wanted to do all the legalities straight away and have your partnership agreement, it adds a little bit to the cost, obviously, but not as much as setting up a company. Flexibility. So again, like a sole trader, as you would see, the flexibility of being able to run a business is quite limited because it's the two individuals. So there's no flexibility around paying income other than to the two partners, unless there's an employee. There's not much leeway in terms of who makes decisions and who controls the business. So it's really unlikely that you'd be running a partnership agreement and appoint a manager and the two partners step down. Realistically, if that was the situation, you would have a company by that stage and you'd appoint a managing director to the company, and the other directors might be silent directors. So again, partnerships have their place. They're fantastic for early stage businesses or smaller businesses. So really think about whether, if you're in a partnership now, whether it's still good for you or whether you should be thinking about something else. If you're in a partnership and you don't have a partnership agreement, then that's really my biggest advice here, is to make sure you have a partnership agreement. Or if you're starting business with someone, yes, consider a partnership. But understand that we'll get you through the first couple of years of your business potentially, and then you need to be looking at moving the business into another structure, so that you get asset protection primarily, but also some of the income tax benefits that you get in a company as your income in the business grows. So there you go. That's the second of this short series on small business structures that I'm going to do. The next two videos I'm going to be then discussing the pros and cons of doing business in a company, and then the pros and cons of doing business in a trust. So those two are yet to come. So if this video was of interest to you, I will be saving it onto the page. Please tag anyone's name in it if you know it'll be of interest to them. But otherwise, you can go back and look at the old videos, and then I do this every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, so long as it's not a public holiday. So again, I wish you all the best for the rest of the week. And if you have any questions about business structuring, of course, you can get in contact. See you next time.